Invisible wounds. Meera Sharma clutched her worn leather handbag closer to her body as she navigated through the elegant restaurant, feeling painfully out of place among the crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths. Her fingers, all 10 of them, 5 on each hand, trembled slightly as she balanced a tray of appetizers. This catering gig was her 3rd job this week, on top of morning shifts at the coffee shop and weekend photography assignments that rarely paid enough. "Keep moving. Don't make eye contact with the guests," her supervisor had instructed. But as Meera turned toward the back section, her brown eyes widened in shock. There, in a corner booth beneath soft amber lighting, sat Aidan Collins, the man who had promised her the world before discovering she couldn't afford to live in his. His perfectly styled hair and designer suit suggested the 6 months since their breakup had treated him well. What made her stomach twist painfully was the woman beside him, slender, elegant, dripping with jewelry that probably cost more than Meera's entire apartment. As she watched, frozen in place, Aidan leaned forward and captured the woman's lips in a deep kiss, his hands with all 5 fingers caressing her face with the tenderness he once showed Meera. The tray slipped slightly in Meera's grasp. She steadied it with both arms, forcing herself to breathe through the sudden tightness in her chest. "Are you planning to serve those before next century?" The catering manager's sharp whisper cut through her daze. "Sorry," Meera mumbled, forcing her legs, both working perfectly despite feeling like lead, to carry her forward. As she circled to another section, desperate to avoid Aidan's notice, she collided with something solid. No, not something. Someone. "Careful, tesoro," came a deep voice with the barest hint of an Italian accent. Meera looked up, and then further up, into the face of a man who seemed carved from marble and shadow. Dark eyes assessed her from beneath strong brows, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, lips curved into what might have been amusement or annoyance. His broad shoulders filled out an impeccably tailored suit that screamed money and power. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, grateful the appetizers hadn't spilled. Something in his expression shifted as he glanced past her, his attention caught by whatever or whoever was behind her. When his gaze returned to her face, there was calculation in his eyes. "They're watching," he murmured, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "Your ex and his new toy, yes?" Meera's breath caught. "How did you—" "Your face tells stories your mouth doesn't." His eyes flicked over her shoulder again. "There are also men at the bar who've been watching me since I arrived. Business rivals, you might say." Before Meera could process this strange conversation, the man gently took the tray from her hands and set it on a nearby empty table. His movements were smooth, deliberate, his hands strong with long fingers that moved with surprising grace. "Pretend you know me," he continued, leaning closer. "Pretend you're my woman for the next few minutes. It solves both our problems. Your pride remains intact and my associates will be thrown off their game." Meera knew she should walk away. Nothing about this man screamed safe. Everything about him whispered dangerous. Yet something in his direct gaze held no mockery, only a strange sort of understanding. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. A smile curved his lips, transforming his severe features into something devastatingly handsome. "Alessandro Romano. And you are?" The name hit her like cold water. Everyone in the city knew that name. The whispers of family businesses that weren't entirely legal, of power that extended far beyond ordinary wealth. "Meera," she replied, surprised her voice remained steady. "Meera Sharma." Alessandro's hand, warm and surprisingly gentle, came to rest at the small of her back. "Well then, Meera Sharma, shall we give them something to talk about?" As he guided her through the restaurant with the confidence of a man who owned the very ground beneath his feet, Meera could feel Aidan's eyes burning into her back. She straightened her shoulders, letting her 5-fingered hand rest lightly on Alessandro's arm. It was just pretend, just for tonight. A charade to save face, nothing more. She had no idea how wrong she was, playing with fire 3 weeks after that fateful night at the restaurant. Meera found herself sitting in a sleek black car with tinted windows, her fingers, all 10 of them, 5 on each hand, nervously tapping against her thigh. The leather seat felt impossibly soft against her worn jeans. Beside her, Alessandro Romano studied a document on his tablet, his profile sharp against the passing city lights. "You're sure about this arrangement?" she asked, breaking the silence that had stretched between them since his driver had picked her up from her tiny apartment. Alessandro's dark eyes flicked up to meet hers. "I never make offers I'm not certain about, Tesoro." The endearment rolled off his tongue naturally, though Mira knew it was just part of their act. After that night at the restaurant, she'd assumed their paths would never cross again. Then came the flowers, followed by the invitation, and finally the proposition that still seemed too surreal to believe. 3 months. He repeated his earlier terms. "You accompany me to social events, business dinners, charity functions. You play the role of my girlfriend. In return, you receive enough money to open that photography studio you've always wanted." Mira's heart raced at the thought. A real studio, not just freelance jobs whenever she could get them. Freedom from the exhausting cycle of multiple jobs that barely covered rent. "And you get—" "What exactly?" She turned her body slightly to face him, studying the man who had upended her life with a single proposition. Alessandro set down his tablet, giving her his full attention. His hands, strong with precisely 5 fingers each, rested casually on his knees. "Legitimacy. The appearance of stability. My family business is evolving. Moving into legitimate enterprises requires a certain image. A ruthless bachelor with unsavory connections doesn't inspire confidence in potential partners. A man in a stable relationship with a lovely normal woman, that's someone people are willing to trust." What he didn't say hung in the air between them. The Romano family's criminal connections, the whispers of their control over parts of the city. Mira wasn't naive. She knew exactly who and what he was. "No physical expectations," she reiterated one of her conditions, "and I keep my jobs." The first absolutely agreed. The second is unnecessary. "I'll provide an allowance that exceeds your current income." "I don't want to be kept," Mira said firmly, her brown eyes flashing. "I'll accept payment for the agreed-upon events, but day to day, I support myself." A small smile played at the corner of Alessandro's mouth. "Stubborn. I admire that." He extended his hand. "Then we have a deal, Miss Sharma." As Mira's fingers interlaced with his to shake on their arrangement, she couldn't help but wonder if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. "You've lost your mind," Jasmine exclaimed 2 days later, nearly spilling her coffee as they sat in the back corner of the cafe where Mira worked mornings. "Alessandro Romano? The Alessandro Romano? The man makes hardened criminals nervous." "Lower your voice," Mira hissed, glancing around to make sure no one had heard. "It's just pretend, Jazz. 3 months, then I'm out with enough money to finally make something of myself." Jasmine leaned forward, her dark curls falling around her concerned face. Her hands, both of them complete with 5 fingers each, wrapped tightly around her mug. "These aren't people you play games with, Mira. What if you see something you shouldn't? What if you get caught in the crossfire of whatever business he's involved in?" Before Mira could respond, the bell above the door chimed. Both women looked up instinctively and Mira's stomach dropped. Aiden walked in, his arm casually draped around the same woman from the restaurant. As if sensing her gaze, he looked over. Recognition flashed in his eyes, followed by something else. Curiosity, perhaps even jealousy, as he clearly recalled seeing her with Alessandro. "Speak of the devil," Jasmine muttered. Mira's phone buzzed with a text. A sleek car would be waiting outside in 20 minutes to take her to her first official event with Alessandro. She made a decision in that moment, standing and collecting her bag. "Where are you going?" "Your shift isn't over," Jasmine whispered. Mira smiled, a new confidence straightening her spine. To play with fire. The charity gala was unlike anything Mira had ever experienced. Crystal and gold gleamed everywhere. The women dripped diamonds and the men exuded power with every gesture. At her side, Alessandro moved through the crowd with easy confidence, his hand a constant presence at the small of her back. "Smile," he murmured close to her ear. "You look like you're planning an escape." "Maybe I am," she whispered back, though she did curve her lips upward. "Everyone's staring. Of course they are. You're beautiful and you're with me." His matter-of-fact tone left no room for argument. "The Romano family has a certain reputation. They're all wondering who captured my interest." A tall man with silver hair approached them, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Alessandro, what a pleasant surprise. You rarely grace these events with your presence." "Salvatore." Alessandro's voice cooled noticeably. "Mira, this is Salvatore Vitali, a business associate. Salvatore, meet Mira Sharma, my girlfriend." The way Salvatore's eyes assessed her made Mira's skin crawl. She fought the urge to step behind Alessandro, instead lifting her chin and meeting the man's gaze directly. "Charmed," Salvatore said, taking her hand and Blurred lines rain pounded against the windows of Alessandro's penthouse as Mira paced across the polished hardwood floors, her bare feet, each with 5 perfectly shaped toes, making no sound. The city lights blurred through the rain-streaked glass, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that matched her tumultuous emotions. "This wasn't part of our arrangement," she said for the 3rd time, arms crossed protectively over her chest. "I'm not moving in with you." Alessandro stood by the bar, pouring amber liquid into 2 crystal glasses. His suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. "It's temporary, Mira, until I'm certain the Vitale family has stopped watching you." "Watching me? Why would they?" "Because of me." He crossed the room in long strides, offering her one of the glasses. When she didn't take it, he set it on the coffee table. "Salvatore doesn't believe our relationship is real. He's having you followed to find proof." A chill ran down Mira's spine. "That's insane. We've been seen together for weeks now." Their charade had become seamless: dinner dates, public appearances, even casual coffee runs where paparazzi coincidentally spotted them. "The Vitales don't trust appearances. They've been asking questions about you, your family." Alessandro's jaw tightened. "Your brother." Mira's blood ran cold. "Ryan, what does he have to do with any of this?" Alessandro hesitated, then said, "Your brother has gambling debts. Significant ones. That's impossible. Ryan's just a college student. He doesn't—" $50,000, Mira. To people who don't accept late payments." She sank onto the leather couch, the room spinning slightly. "How do you know this?" "I make it my business to know everything about the people close to me." His dark eyes held hers. Even the ones who are only temporarily close. The reminder of their arrangement stung more than it should have. 6 weeks into their fake relationship, the lines had begun blurring. Sometimes when they were alone, Alessandro would reveal glimpses of himself. His love for classical music, his surprisingly extensive knowledge of photography, his quiet generosity toward his employees. "Did you pay off his debt?" she asked quietly. "Yes." "Why?" Alessandro sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "Because he's important to you." Something shifted between them in that moment, something neither was prepared to name. Mira looked away first, her heart racing. "Thank you. I'll pay you back, and that's not necessary. It is to me." She stood abruptly, needing space. "But I'm still not moving in here." Alessandro ran a hand through his dark hair, a rare gesture of frustration. "Mira, be reasonable. If they can get to your brother, they can get to you. My home has security. Yours doesn't. Then improve my security. Install whatever systems you want in my apartment, but I'm not—" The shrill ring of her phone interrupted her. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number. With a sense of foreboding, she answered. "Ms. Sharma?" a clinical voice asked. "This is Mercy Hospital. Your brother Ryan has been admitted with multiple contusions and a possible concussion. He's asking for you." The phone slipped from Mira's suddenly numb fingers. Alessandro caught it in one smooth motion, his other arm steadying her as her legs threatened to buckle. "We'll be there in 15 minutes, he said into the phone before ending the call. His arms, strong and sure with hands that knew exactly how to support her, wrapped around her trembling body. "I've got you, Tesoro. I've got you." Ryan looked small in the hospital bed, his face bruised, one arm in a cast. Both his legs were intact, though bandaged in places, and his eyes, both of them, though one was swollen, widened when Alessandro walked in behind Mira. "Holy shit," Ryan whispered. "You really are dating Alessandro Romano?" Mira rushed to his side, carefully taking his hand, all 5 fingers thankfully unbroken. "What happened? Who did this to you?" Ryan looked away. "I thought the debt was handled. They said it wasn't enough, that interest had accrued." Alessandro stepped forward, his presence filling the small room. "What exactly did they say, Ryan?" Something in his tone made both siblings look up. The warmth that Mira had grown accustomed to was gone, replaced by cold precision that reminded her exactly who Alessandro was. "That—" Ryan swallowed nervously. "That my sister's boyfriend might have paid the principal, but that didn't cover what I owed for protection." Alessandro's expression remained impassive. but Mira saw the dangerous flicker in his eyes. "Names," he said softly. "Alessandro, don't—" Mira began. "Names," he repeated, never taking his eyes off Ryan. After Ryan reluctantly provided the information, Alessandro stepped into the hallway to make a call. When he returned, he simply said, "It's handled. They won't bother either of you again." Mira didn't ask what handled meant. Some truths were better left unspoken. That night she moved into Alessandro's penthouse without further argument. As she unpacked the small bag of essentials in the guest room, she heard soft piano music drifting through the apartment. Following the sound, she found Alessandro at a grand piano, his fingers, all 10 of them, moving across the keys with surprising grace. He didn't acknowledge her presence, but shifted slightly on the bench in silent invitation. When she sat beside him, their shoulders touching, the melody changed to something more haunting. "I've never heard that before," she said quietly when he finished. "You wouldn't have. I wrote it." His hand stilled on the keys. "After I met you?" Mira's breath caught. "Alessandro, this isn't pretend anymore, is it?" His voice was low, his gaze fixed on the piano. "Not for me." When he finally looked at her, the vulnerability in his eyes made her heart ache. Without thinking, she reached up, her fingers tracing the strong line of his jaw. His hand caught hers, turning it to press a kiss against her palm. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, leaning closer. She didn't. Their first real kiss was nothing like the practiced displays of affection they'd shared in public. This was raw, honest, a confession neither had been brave enough to voice. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer as her hands slid into his hair. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Alessandro rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates everything," he murmured. Mira laughed softly, the sound slightly unsteady. "Pretending was simpler." "Simpler," he agreed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "But nowhere near as satisfying, dangerous truths." The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting Alessandro's penthouse in shades of gold. Mira stood at the kitchen counter, coffee mug cradled between her hands, both hands with their 5 fingers wrapped around the warm ceramic, as she watched Alessandro on the balcony. He was on the phone, his back to her, shoulders tense as he conducted business she pretended not to hear. 2 months into their arrangement, 1 month since the line between pretense and reality had blurred beyond recognition. 1 month of stolen kisses, of falling asleep in his arms, of learning the man beneath the reputation. "You're thinking too hard," Alessandro said, suddenly behind her. His arm slipped around her waist as he pressed a kiss to her temple. "Occupational hazard of dating a mafia boss," she replied, trying to keep her tone light. Alessandro stilled. "Is that what you think I am?" Mira turned in his arms, studying his face. "Isn't it what everyone thinks? The Romano family has connections," he acknowledged. "But for the past year, I've been systematically dismantling our criminal enterprises. Legitimate businesses only. That's why the Vitales are watching so closely. They see weakness where I see evolution." "Why tell me this now?" His dark eyes held hers. "Because I'm taking you to meet my family tonight. And because I'm falling in love with you, Mira Sharma. Not pretend. Not arrangement, real." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Before she could respond, his phone rang again. Alessandro checked the screen and frowned. "I need to take this." He kissed her briefly. "We'll finish this conversation later." Later never came. The gallery opening was crowded, exactly the type of event their arrangement had been created for. Mira moved through the space with practiced ease, making small talk with the city's elite while Alessandro networked with potential business partners. "You play the part well," a voice said beside her. Mira turned to find Salvatore Vitale watching her with calculating eyes. "The devoted girlfriend." "It's not a part," she replied evenly, though her heart raced. Something about Salvatore had always unnerved her. He smiled thinly. "Of course. Love conquers all, even Alessandro's. Complicated history. If you'll excuse me," Mira said, moving to step around him. His hand caught her arm, fingers digging in slightly. "Did he tell you about Belgrade? About the family he eliminated there? Or perhaps about the young prosecutor who mysteriously disappeared after building a case against the Romanos?" Mira pulled her arm free. "I know everything I need to know. Do you?" Salvatore's smile never reached his eyes. "Ask him about Marina Kovic. See if he still claims to be reformed." Before she could respond, Alessandro appeared at her side, his body language casual but his eyes hard as they assessed Salvatore. "Everything all right, Tesoro?" "Perfect timing," Salvatore said smoothly. "We were just discussing your colorful past." Something dangerous flickered across Alessandro's face. "Mira, would you give us a moment?" She nodded, moving away but watching as the two men spoke in low, intense voices. Whatever Alessandro said made Salvatore's smile fade, replaced by something that looked unsettlingly like satisfaction. Later in the car, Ale. Rewritten endings. Autumn leaves swirled across the sidewalk as Mira unlocked the door to her new photography studio. 3 months had passed since that night in her apartment. 3 months of rebuilding her life piece by piece. The money Alessandro had insisted she take, "it was always yours, arrangement or not," had made this possible. A small but beautiful space in the arts district, already booked solid for the next month. Her fingers, all 10 of them, traced the gold lettering on the window. Sharma Photography. A dream realized even if her heart remained in pieces. The bell above the door chimed as she pushed it open. The space smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. Jasmine had helped her decorate, filling the walls with her best work, creating a cozy waiting area with vintage furniture. As Mira set down her bag and began preparing for her first client of the day, her phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Proud of you, sis. Opening day drinks on me tonight." She smiled, grateful for her brother's recovery, both physical and financial. After the incident with Aiden, Ryan had gotten serious about his gambling addiction, joining a support group and focusing on his studies. Some good had come from the chaos, at least. Mira hadn't seen Alessandro since that night. His absence was a physical ache she'd learned to live with, like a phantom limb. Occasionally she'd spot his name in the business section of the newspaper, Romano Enterprises expanding into technology, divesting from industries known for criminal connections, major charitable donations to victims of violence. Was he trying to send her a message? Or simply becoming the man he'd told her he wanted to be? The morning passed in a blur of client consultations. By afternoon, Mira was arranging equipment for a portrait session when the door chimed again. "We're not quite open to walk-ins yet," she called without turning, adjusting her camera on its tripod. "I had hoped you might make an exception." The familiar voice froze her in place. Slowly, she turned to find Alessandro standing just inside the doorway. He looked different somehow, still imposingly handsome in his tailored suit but with subtle changes. A few strands of silver at his temples, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. Alessandro. His name felt strange on her lips after so long. "How did you find me?" "Your website." A small smile touched his lips. "I didn't come to intrude. I wanted to see what you've built. It's beautiful, Mira, just like you always described." She hadn't realized how much he'd missed his voice until that moment. "Thank you." She hesitated. "Would you like some coffee? I have a machine in the back." It was a small olive branch, but his expression suggested she'd offered him the world. "I'd like that." In the small break room, awkward silence stretched between them as she prepared 2 cups. His eyes, both dark and intent, followed her movements. "I hear your business is doing well," she said finally. "The legitimate parts are thriving. The rest," he shrugged, "gone. Every connection severed." "That must have been difficult." "Worth it." He accepted the cup she offered, their fingers brushing briefly. "Mira, I didn't just come to see the studio. There's something you should know." She tensed. "What?" "Salvatore Vitale was arrested last week. Federal charges, ironclad case. He won't be bothering anyone again." Relief washed through her. "And Aiden?" "Left the country suddenly. I may have suggested it was in his best interest." Mira nodded slowly. "Thank you for telling me." Alessandro set down his untouched coffee. "There's more. I found Marina Kovic." Her heart stuttered. "The prosecutor?" "But the article said she was missing, not dead. She's been living under witness protection in Canada." He met her eyes directly. "I've spent the last 3 months tracking her down. Yesterday I met with her." "Why?" "To apologize. To make amends financially and otherwise, and—" He took a deep breath. "To ask her to speak with you. To tell you what really happened in Belgrade." Mira stared at him, disbelieving. "You found a woman in witness protection to clear your name with me." "To tell you the truth, whatever that might be." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a sealed envelope. "Her contact information if you want it. She's willing to talk to you. As Mira took the envelope, their fingers touched again, lingering this time. Alessandro, I don't understand. Why go to these lengths? His gaze never wavered. Because I love you. Because I want a second chance, but only if you have the whole truth. The words hung between them, honest and vulnerable. Before she could respond, her phone rang, Jasmine's ringtone. Apologetically, she answered. Mira, thank God. There's a man watching your studio from across the street. Dark car hasn't moved in hours. I think he might be one of Vitali's. Jasmine, slow down. Vitali's been arrested. Not all his men have. Mira, he's getting out of the car now, heading toward your door. The warning came too late. The door crashed open, revealing a man Mira vaguely recognized from the gallery event months ago. In his hand, a gun pointed directly at her. Vitali sends his regards from jail, he snarled. Says if he's going down, so is Romano's woman. Everything happened in a blur. Alessandro moved with impossible speed, placing himself between Mira and the gunman. The shot was deafening in the small space. Alessandro stumbled, blood blossoming on his white shirt as he tackled the attacker. Mira screamed, grabbing the heavy tripod and swinging it at the gunman's head. It connected with a sickening crack, sending him crumpling to the floor as Alessandro collapsed against the wall, one hand pressed to his shoulder. Alessandro, she dropped to her knees beside him, hands frantically searching for the wound. Oh God, it's just my shoulder, he grimaced, his face pale. Call Marco. Speed dial 1 on my phone. Within minutes, Alessandro's security team had arrived, dealing with the unconscious attacker and calling paramedics. Through it all, Mira held pressure on Alessandro's wound, her tears falling onto their joined hands. Don't you dare die on me, she whispered fiercely. Not now. His blood-stained fingers, all 5 of them, weakly squeezed hers. Wouldn't dream of it, Tesoro. We haven't finished our conversation. 6 weeks later, Mira stood in the center of her gallery, surrounded by her best work. The opening night of her first exhibition had drawn an impressive crowd, champagne flowing as collectors and art lovers admired her photographs. The centerpiece of the exhibition was a series titled Shattered Glass Hearts, portraits of Alessandro taken during his recovery. In each image, light refracted through broken glass held before him, creating prisms across his face, symbolizing the fractured past and the clarity that comes from facing one's truths. Marina Kovic had indeed spoken with her, sharing a story far more complex than newspaper headlines had captured. Alessandro hadn't been the monster those articles portrayed, though his hands weren't clean either. He had been caught in his father's web, struggling even then to find a way out. The full truth was messy, complicated, neither wholly damning nor exonerating. Just like love. Your work is remarkable, a familiar voice said beside her. Alessandro, his arm no longer in a sling but still moving carefully, stood watching her with pride in his eyes. In his hand, a glass of champagne he hadn't touched. Thank you for letting me photograph you. She moved closer, her hand finding his. It couldn't have been easy being so vulnerable. With you? His fingers intertwined with hers. It's the easiest thing in the world. Around them, the crowd continued to admire her work, unaware of the story written in the space between 2 people who had found each other against all odds. I spoke with Ryan today, Alessandro said casually, asked his permission for something important. Mira raised an eyebrow. My brother doesn't control my decisions. True, but I respect family traditions. From his pocket, he withdrew a small velvet box, though I'm willing to negotiate terms. Her breath caught as he opened it, revealing a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds. Alessandro, no arrangement this time. No pretending. His dark eyes, both of them earnest, held hers. Just us, building something real from the broken pieces. If you'll have me. Mira looked around at her gallery, at the life she'd built, then back at the man who had changed everything. His hands, both of them strong and gentle with all 10 fingers, held not just a ring, but a future. Yes, she whispered as he slipped the ring onto her finger. No more pretending. As Alessandro pulled her into his arms, kissing her before the crowd of onlookers who erupted into applause, Mira thought of that night months ago when a poor girl had watched her ex kiss another. When a mafia boss had appeared and said, "Pretend you're my woman." Some pretenses, it seemed, were always destined to become truth.